And then we have our Business Aviation Day.
Oh, yes. I'd like to hear about this. You guys listen to this. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't bite off things small bites. We take really big bites.
Nothing wrong.
And so 2 years ago, we held our first Business Aviation Day. A lot of local and regional groups, there are over 60 in the country. I'm on the local and regional groups committee with NBAA. So they're all groups of different sizes and shapes and that cover different amounts of territory and small and large in membership size. And what we have decided is that we don't have any golfers on our board. And so we can't have a golf tournament as our fundraiser. So we decided that, and I know we were in Florida, but what we decided instead was that we were going to make workforce our mission. And that we were going to try this event. It's like a mini NBAA regional.
Hello, and welcome to the Business Aviation Collective podcast, sponsored by LD Aviation. Today, we are extremely lucky to have Jenny Showalter with us. She is currently a business aviation career coach, but we're going to hear about how she was part of the S&D committee for 10 years. She's also been kind of a serial entrepreneur where she's had working with a family business, and now she's started her own business. So hello, Jenny. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Lindsay. It's great to be here. Thank you.
You know, you and I were kind of talking a little bit prior to starting to record. We've been in the industry similar amounts of time, and I don't think I've ever gotten a chance to just sit down and talk to you. And I'm really excited about this.
Oh, I agree. I'm just so thrilled with what you're doing for the industry, and I'm excited that we get to have this chance to talk today.
Yes, me too. So let's kind of start out. So the Showalter name in the aviation industry has been around a long time. What was your part in the Showalter FBO and airport training? Like, tell us what you did.
Sure. Well, I actually started in the FBO. Well, let me back up a little bit. The FBO was started in 1945 by my grandfather, my great uncle, and their cousin. And my parents bought the business from family in 1974, the year that I came onto the scene. You can do the math. And and growing up, I just kind of I always knew my parents worked at an airport, but when somebody said, what do your parents do? I'm like, oh, I don't really know, because how do you translate what we did at an FBO to layman's terms or to talking to a peer when you're a child? And it wasn't until I was in college, really, that I started to spend some time there and work in the business a little bit. And when I graduated high school and I was washing rental cars, college, I went ahead and did some courtesy rides and such for our customers. Okay. And I was going to go teach history. That was my goal, was to go be a history teacher. I had played sports all through school, and I was going to teach history and coach at the high school that I went to. And my parents sat me down and they said, Jenny, we need you to come and work for us for 1 year, because it was summer of 1996 when we had our very first NBAA convention and static display coming that November, the week before Thanksgiving. I'll never forget. I think we were all still sitting with our feet up for that Thanksgiving, but it was 1 year that I was supposed to do this. But here I am, still in business aviation all these years later. And for the 20 years that I worked at the FBO, I did customer service, but it was everything. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You understand, we were a small family business, ultimately, 35 employees at most. And we did everything. So yes, customer service was my title and my main job. But I parked airplanes. We rode the highs and the lows of 9/11 and the Great Recession and all of the events that have really impacted the industry since I started. And I said, during the Great Recession, I had an amazing farmer's tan from all the time I spent out parking airplanes, and I marshaled everything in, and I would fuel and pull some GPUs and such. But you just had to do what you had to do at the FBO. So it was a wonderful foundation, and just kind of an education in the industry. And I don't think I really realized, especially when I was younger, what I was getting by doing that. But now that I'm older and I have a lot more experience under my belt, I can see how well it prepared me for what lied ahead.
Definitely. So I kind of want to highlight some of what you were talking about. So all of your formal education background is in history. So it's not aviation. So it's really, you have a lot of hands-on aviation experience, real world.
That is correct. Yes, I've never had any formal aviation experience. And I mean, I work with people all the time who have done some of their education at Embry-Riddle or, any number of places that we're familiar with in the industry. No, I didn't have any of that. I was the boss's daughter. That was how I got my education, was by being the boss's daughter. And I recognized very early on that could go one of two ways, that I could live up to the expectations of the boss's daughter, or I could exceed them. And I chose to exceed them.
That's great. And I kind of bring that up is partly for people who are listening that maybe they don't have an aviation background and they're just coming in with nothing. It's still possible to do it. You don't have to have these formal educations to come into this business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I still to this day, I tell people, go to your local FBO, go have a cup of free coffee at your local FBO, and don't ever underestimate the power of that, because you never know who you're going to be talking to or meeting while you're there. It's a great place to get to network, to get a foundation in the industry or get a deeper understanding of it. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of that.
Definitely. And I really can resonate too with what you were talking about. You did everything. My background, my parents owned their own company as well. And so we did everything. And whatever late night happened to be, myself, my parents, it was a whole family ordeal. Everybody went out and did it. You just did it. So I can see, I like that. I think that's really cool. And I really think that sets you up for building your new business, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think that's really great training as kids to be dragged around and made to help out in every section.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you, we had a saying at the flying service. It's what my family refers to it as. My mom had come across this at one point, and it was FTTP, fold the toilet paper, which means literally fold the toilet paper when you come out of the bathroom so that it looks like it's been attended to. It looks like it's ready for the next person, because bathrooms at FBOs were hugely important. They had to be on point where you would hear about it. But the deeper meaning of that is it's everyone's job to make sure that the details are attended to. And that's personal details. It's your professionalism that you're showing to others, as well as the physical details. So that was a wonderful education and foundation for me in the industry, being a leader in the family business and really encouraging others to follow suit.
FTTP. All right. I'm going to keep that going. And I got to tell my kids about that too. Yeah. FTTP. That's great. So during that long career that you had there with the FBO, you also were part of the committee for the S&D. And that's always near and dear to my heart because, of course, that's the industry I'm in. So can you tell us about that? What was it like?
Well, interesting how that transpired. I was actually still in college. The first time I was a senior in college when I attended my first Schedulers and Dispatchers convention at the Opryland Hotel in Nashville. Now, I guess the Gaylord. And I went because we needed a booth body, somebody to stand in the booth. And I don't know, there was something about it, the energy, the passion, the engagement. I was like, I want more of this. And I didn't even know that I was going to end up in the business at that point in time, but that's what I wanted to do. And so when it was clear that I was going to stay in the business, I went ahead and reached out and got connected with people and said, I want to volunteer. And I was actually one of two people that were put in charge of the ambassador subcommittee at the time. So that was something that I helped create and lead. And I wasn't even a committee member at the time. But it did lead to committee membership. So the volunteerism and me raising my hand and saying, I'd really like to help and I don't know what I can do, but I want to do something, was enough to signal to the leaders at the time, hey, this is somebody who could maybe help us in a way that we can't help ourselves right now, because you're so busy. You're planning a convention, you're working your full-time jobs. And so that's what I got to do. And when I rolled onto the committee then as a member, I spent I guess about 8 years on the committee at that point in time before I became vice chair and then ultimately chair of the convention in 2008. And this industry is part of me. It is who I am. And I credit schedulers and dispatchers with not only giving me a more of a 360 view of the industry. One of my mentors and one of the dearest people in my world is Holly Pendleton with Aflac.
Oh yeah.
And Holly was one that I don't even think she knew she was giving me an education and what it was like from her perspective, because I was thinking of it from the FBO perspective, but she was one of the ones that really made me start to think, well, what is it like from the operator perspective? What do they need from me? And she helped me kind of look into that aspect of things and grow in that knowledge. But my very best friends on the planet all came out of my 10 years on the Schedulers and Dispatchers Committee. And I really credit it for not only what it has done for me professionally, standing out on that stage and talking to the room full of people. That was a big moment for me, leading a successful conference, but it's really what it has done for me in the years that have passed since, where I've got my network, my people, my support system, and it all came out of schedulers and dispatchers. So the real moral of that story: volunteer, raise your hand, because it can help you professionally, but you can also reap just amazing personal rewards.
And really change the industry. Like, I did not realize you were part of the ambassador program or created the ambassador program, because now it's really big. And, for those who are listening that don't know what it is, can you just tell us what is that program all about?
Yeah. So the ambassador program was really created for people coming to the conference for the first time and maybe being shy, or maybe they hadn't even attended many conferences before, but they really didn't know their way. And so it was pairing them, kind of like a mentorship program, pairing them with people who were able to guide them through their first convention. And it was just giving them extra information, extra opportunities to network and connect before they had to walk into the big convention center, into the sea of people. And so they were feeling like they were going in with a buddy or knowledge that was going to help them succeed that week. And, especially in the scheduler dispatcher role, oftentimes you stay home while everybody else travels. And you don't get that opportunity to get out of the office much, or away from your phone much, or into the industry very often. So these were people that were stepping out sometimes in a way they never had. And so to give them that support, I think was really fantastic.
That's so wonderful. And we've got the next convention coming up in March. So if anybody's listening and you want to have maybe just, start your networking early, sign up for that ambassador program. It's a great program. Well, thank you for setting that up. Really, I've sent some of my people to it. I should probably help somebody when I'm there. That would be volunteering.
Well, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And see, when I did it, I didn't give people a choice. In fact, I remember Rich Ropp, who's a dear friend that I got through Schedulers and Dispatchers. He's with LD Aviation. I can remember one time, yelling across the room to him because I had all these people that didn't have somebody to match up with. And Rich was walking through the convention center with like 7 or 8 people trailing behind him. He just took them all. And so
that's great.
Good memories of that. But there are people who are willing to help, and yes, everybody should raise their hand to do that, because we were all new ones. We all had that first time.
We sure will. And that's not a small convention. So no, definitely worthwhile to go, but could be overwhelming for sure. Like you said,
Correct.
People don't maybe get out that often.
That's right.
Very cool. So let's see, I want to kind of go next. So I believe that your family sold the FBO and the whole business around 2015. What did you do after FBOs?
Yeah, after FBOs. So yeah, I tell people, Lindsay, that I was 40 and a single mom with young kids, and my parents sold the business, which was the only place I had ever worked. It was a very exciting, but also a little bit of a scary time being in that stage of life and in that place that I was. I was really lucky to be able to step right into a role as executive director at the Florida Business Aviation Association. I loved that role. And we worked in, especially in advocacy here in the state of Florida, legislative advocacy. And so that was a great role. And then I did that for about 1.5 or 2 years and went to go work for a business aviation recruiting firm, a boutique firm, and got to really experience again a new side of the industry, or gain new insights, I guess, into the industry. And my initial role there was working with incoming candidates, so business aviation professionals that were looking to network with the recruiting firm, and it was doing their intakes, and it was listening to what they want and what was happening in their world. And so again, very enlightening. And ultimately then I ended up being a project manager and working with the companies that were hiring for their flight departments, and got to actually pair people with new opportunity, which was incredibly fun and fulfilling, I would say. And once the pandemic hit, I was tasked with dusting an outplacement program off the shelf and kind of bringing it up to today's standards and helping displaced aviation professionals who had been part of a reduction of force or a layoff or closure. And it was in that moment that everything for me sort of came full circle, because, you know, my entire career had been really about people, because at the FBO, it was about the people I worked with, and it was about my customers and schedulers and dispatchers. I was there for the greater good, but the people are what motivated and drove me. And so outplacement gave me the opportunity to work with people one-on-one and really help them through their challenging transition. Oftentimes I was one of the first people that they saw after they got laid off, or within a day or so of them getting the news. So it was very raw. It was all over video. So it was, you know, it wasn't, I'm a hugger. I'm a you know, very, very, you know, touchy-feely person in that regard. And I wasn't able to do that with them, but we shed many tears over Zooms as people expressed to me their, you know, fear. I think it starts out as fear. But then we worked through the different stages, and we wrote new resumes, and we updated our LinkedIn pages, and we had a cover letter that explained what had happened and what we want in the future. And we did interview prep when interviews were coming up in their lives, and all the way up through and including, you know, helping some of them negotiate their next opportunity. And it was really incredible. And then I got laid off.
And now you're on the other side.
I know. It was kind of ironic, but then I got laid off. So luckily I knew what to do, but I joke, and I'm, you know, somebody listening to this who knows me will probably have heard me say before, I didn't want to write my own resume, so I started my own business. Not easier in hindsight.
No. Well, I feel you. I feel that same way. I'm like, I'm not sure I want to write a resume again. So you should go this way.
Right.
I want to hear all about the business. Before that, we talked a little bit about this before we got on the call, but really highlight the fact that you came from the FBO, which was a lot of the small flight departments, the smaller aircraft. You went to a recruiting firm, and usually those larger companies are the ones that can afford a recruiting firm. So you really got to see both the small air operator side and the large operator side.
Absolutely. Well, and I got to cut my teeth on the small operators. Orlando, for the 20 years that I worked in our business, was not like a hotbed of corporate activity. We had, I think our biggest base customer had 2 Falcons. And I mean, that was big, and it's changed now. It's not the same way anymore. But at the time, that's how it was. But, you know, our ramps were covered with Citations and King Airs and Learjets, and, you know, that was the majority of our business. I think actually it was a good cross section of who business aviation is made up of, because, you know, with over 80% of the operators being small operators, 1 or 2 aircraft, you know, that really, if you looked at our ramp on most days, we probably had about 80% of small aircraft, 20% of larger aircraft. And so that was my comfort zone. And then I went to corporate America, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, some high net worth folks that were looking to hire for their flight department. And I really got to see the difference in the two. And, I think the small operators are always going to be near and dear to my heart. And as I started this business, that was one of the things I thought about. Just how do I want to help the individuals, and I want to help the small operators who don't have the ability, the resources, the time to deal with some of the vendors and resources that the larger companies have. And just like you with your business, Lindsay, we really try to target a lot of the same people in what we do.
Definitely. Yeah. I just always thought it was imperative that we offer these same really great resources to the small companies that we can from the big companies. And big flight departments have, multiple people on staff. They can find the executive hiring team. And for my business at least, I just wanted to be able to offer those same services to all the smaller ones that maybe just couldn't afford that whole piece of it. Okay, well, this is perfect tie-in towards the company that you built. It's called Business Aviation Career Coach, right? And the website is showalter.com. So you guys, for those of you listening, you've got to check out her website. First of all, there's a whole section on the history of the entire Showalter FBO and company, but then there's also Jenny's history. So Jenny, why don't you tell us about what services are you offering?
Sure. Well, Lindsay, I actually really took inspiration from that outplacement product that I offered. And that's basically what I do with my business now. I offer one-on-one career coaching. So somebody can come to me if they're dealing with a challenge, or if they want to strategize for future, or just need a sounding board, just need to get something off their chest. I find that I come from a family where everybody's in aviation. So like if I say to my husband or my parents or my brother something that's going on in the industry, they totally get it. But if you're not in the industry, you can't fully understand it. I mean, we kind of speak our own language, and it's kind of all encompassing. So because of that, I think people just sometimes need a safe place to talk. They need to be able to confidentially open up about things. And so that's what one-on-one coaching really is about. I also do resume and cover letter writing. I do LinkedIn presence, and I also do interview prep. And I'm not really sure which one is my favorite. I think maybe interview prep is one of my favorites, because from the moment we start to the moment we finish, I see a progression and a change in how people, what their demeanor is like, and how they're answering their questions, and the confidence level that has grown. And I think for, those of us that like immediate gratification, that for me is the one that within 60 or 90 minutes, I can see an immediate change in somebody.
That is so cool. And I love that. And I think that it's so great that you put that into the industry, because we see a lot of those coaching for maybe like 121 pilots or something, but I don't see a lot of it for S&D or corporate pilots.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Flight attendants. Yeah, I obviously I work with people that are not just in corporate flight departments, although that is a majority probably of who I work with. But you're absolutely right. Having the ability to work with somebody who understands the industry and who can help guide you, and there really aren't a lot of people out there that are able to do what I can do with a client individually. So the airlines, yes, it's all covered. And I'm not a technical person. I mean, I can't tell you how to ace a technical interview, but that should be your job. You should know how to do that because you're skilled at what you do. But I can help coach you through some of the HR questions that are going to be asked and help you craft messages. I was just with a client earlier today. We're crafting a message about, where he is in his career right now, because they're going to ask, why did you leave your last job? And there's a story to tell. And it's crafting that message in a way that is concise and consistent and on message when you speak with somebody about that. So people need that kind of assistance.
Yeah, we sure do. Some of us, we just don't necessarily know how to tell our story. I also find interesting your LinkedIn option, that service. So I have to admit, I'm not super fond of social media. I don't know if it's my age or whatever that is, but I think that would be so cool to get somebody to help you with your LinkedIn presence. What types of things do you do there?
So first of all, I would challenge you, and I did this, I spoke at a CFBA then a couple weeks ago, and I would challenge you. I get the social media thing. I mean, like, I'm a voyeur on Facebook and on Instagram, and my husband and I send, reels and stuff back and forth all the time, whatever to be fun. I'm not big at posting on those platforms, but because now I have my own business and because it's important to me and I have to get the message out, LinkedIn has become an incredible tool, probably the best tool I have for my business. Mm-hmm. And I challenge people to think of LinkedIn not as a social media, but as like a professional networking tool. Okay. And if you can switch that perception of it and how you think of it, I mean, it can do amazing things for businesses. I'm sitting here today because I post on LinkedIn, and it's not comfortable. Sure. It gets easier, but that LinkedIn presence is really, people are doing things wrong and they don't even know it. It's that simple. And sure. And it's not that hard, but just having somebody who can help you. I would say, what's your professional brand? Who are you as a professional? If you look at my LinkedIn profile, and I invite anyone here to connect with me or go to my LinkedIn page, Jenny Showalter, and you'll see that when I was kind of picking my brand and my theme, I'm a third generation business aviation professional because I want to embrace my history. I think it gives me credibility. And so I actually feature some of that Showalter history on my LinkedIn profile because that was my chosen brand. So, and people sometimes need help figuring out what theirs is. Well, I'm a pilot. Everybody's a pilot. Well, I'm a dispatcher. Like all dispatchers do the same thing. But there's still things that make you special. And sometimes you just have to have somebody else help to point those out.
Definitely. All right. For anybody listening, definitely call Jenny if you need help with that. I think that is really great segment into the next piece. So what's important to you should go onto LinkedIn. And I think we've seen through your history that you've done a lot of volunteer work. We talked about S&D. We talked about the ambassador program that you started. Right now, you are the secretary and one of the founders of the Central Florida Business Aviation Association, which you said has been around for about 4 years. I kind of learned about this just about 6 months ago, and you guys are doing great things. Tell me some more about the FBAA, and perhaps sneak in a little note in there about Matt, if anybody
about Matt.
I've been working with her husband on and off for a few years, and I didn't even know she was married to him. So anyway,
yes, I'll tell you about that. Well, let's start with Matt because he's pretty great. So Matt, or Matthew Olafson, my husband, he's the vice president of Central Florida Business Aviation Association. He's also a Global 6000 pilot. And so I tell people all the time, I understand this industry not only because I'm in it and I grew up in it, but because I'm married to it. So he's over in Europe right now for 2.5 weeks while I'm handling the beginning of school and juggling work and all of that. But it's what we do. I mean, that's how we survive in business aviation. But he and I and our friend David Keys, he was on your podcast a few episodes ago. We'd been chatting for some time. Hey, do you think we could get like a regional group off the ground in Central Florida? Do we think we'd have interest? And we decided we were going to reach out to all the people that we knew, and we were going to pick a day and bring a cooler of beer to the FBO and see who showed up. And we had a room full of people, and I'm not sure that any of them actually knew what a regional group was at the time, but we tried our best to explain it. Greg Voos, our regional director from NBAA, was there too to support. And we said, who thinks it'd be a great idea to start a regional group? And everyone raised their hand. And so Dave's the president, Matt's the vice president, and I'm the secretary. So nice, because that's how that works, I guess. But we have a wonderful board of directors. We've grown in just 4 years, to over 400 members. I mean, it's incredible. We had no idea that there was this much interest. And we go from, Melbourne, Daytona, all the way across to Sanford, Orlando, Lakeland. We go a little further over West Coast, but we just need somebody who's willing to kind of head things up over there. But I think that will come. But we were born of the pandemic too. We were only in business for 6 months before the pandemic hit. So we were very easily able to pivot to virtual for happy hours, for webinars. We decided to invite anybody. You don't have to be a member. We had people from all over the country coming to our webinars. And once we were able to be in person again, we've started meeting. We have a happy hour every month at a different location. Tomorrow, it's actually right here in Winter Park near my house. So I'm gonna go to the CFBA happy hour tomorrow night. But we rotate those. We just had a very successful annual membership meeting. We are having our first safety stand down on September 14th. And I'm really excited because I get to have a conversation with my friend David Rimmer, who was one of the passengers on the Embraer aircraft that had the midair with the Gol 737 in Brazil back in the early 2000s. And so we're going to chat during that time about, lessons learned and how to be prepared for the unexpected, because this was not something he ever planned on. And then we have our Business Aviation Day.
Oh, yes. I'd like to hear about this. You guys listen to this. Okay.
Yeah. So we don't bite off things small bites. We take really big bites.
Nothing wrong.
And so 2 years ago, we held our first Business Aviation Day. A lot of local and regional groups. There are over 60 in the country. I'm on the local and regional groups committee with NBAA. So they're all groups of different sizes and shapes and that cover different amounts of territory and small and large in membership size. And what we have decided is that we don't have any golfers on our board. And so we can't have a golf tournament as our fundraiser. So we decided that, and I know we were in Florida, but what we decided instead was that we were going to make workforce our mission, and that we were going to try this event. It's like a mini NBAA regional. We have a small static display. We have speakers. We have booths set up with people there really trying to get interns and hire people. We've had people hired at our events. And we open it up to students, and we do this at Daytona Beach. The next one will be March 1st, 2024. We're accepting sponsors and booths and anybody who wants to come and be a part of it. And we have Embry-Riddle right across the field, so that's an easy connection there. But we also open it up to other universities and high schools in the area. There are a lot of aviation high schools here. Our oldest son graduated from high school with his drone pilot license.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah. So we're trying to take the people, the students that are already thinking about an aviation career, but might not know about business aviation, and give them a one-day immersive chance to touch it, feel it, experience it, meet the people that are involved in it. We also do headshots there. It's really cool. We give everybody a free headshot if they want from a professional photographer. We feed them. It's a really cool event.
That is so great. I think that no hate to any of the golfers out there, but I think that would be just a great place to go. I'm not a golfer, really. I try. I'm just not very good at it. So I would definitely prefer to go to something like that. And what a good way to give back to the industry, which is something you are pretty passionate about in general, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like this industry has given me everything. It's given me my livelihood, my family, my best friends on the planet, my career. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us who love it as much as I do, which I hope there are a lot of others of you out there that love it that much. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are reaching out and that we are mentoring the next generation, because we're kind of in a crisis right now. I don't know if anybody's noticed, you can't get a training slot. And there are a lot of flight departments out there that are definitely understaffed in what they do. More people going to the airlines every day. I just saw another one on LinkedIn yesterday of somebody I know going to American Airlines. Yeah. And if we want this industry to remain strong and successful in the future, everybody who's out there who loves the industry like I do needs to step up and needs to guide somebody else into it.
Yep. And I want to see if I can make a correlation between helping out and entrepreneurship too. I mean, I think that we can help lead some of these young people not only into aviation, but into the entrepreneurial side of it as well, because I think there's a lot of really cool opportunities here that one could build for themselves and create.
Absolutely. I mean, don't ever miss the chance to be innovative. And I didn't start my career thinking, well, yes, I'm going to write resumes and be a career coach. I had no clue. I had no clue, but it was, I took the opportunities that came to me. And then when the moment was right, and when I was kind of in some ways, I call it forced change, when something happens to you and you have to make a decision, you have to make a move. And I had the amazing support of my husband. We took the leap, and it's been really amazing. So, and my motto has kind of been, since I started it, say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Because you never know where it's going to lead you to. So maybe that's good advice. Say yes to everything.
I think that's great advice. Say yes to meeting those people. Say yes to trying something new. Yeah. Just say yes. Great advice. Oh, awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been super enlightening and inspirational. I know you mentioned it earlier, but in case somebody wanted to get a hold of you, where would they find you?
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jenny Showalter. You're also welcome to email me at jshowalter@showalter.com. And on my website at showalter.com, I have a free 15-minute phone consultation that anybody can sign up for. And so I encourage you, if you just want to talk to me one-on-one or kind of get a feel for who I am individually, that 15-minute phone call option is a great one.
Awesome. Great. And then for those of you listening, I'll pop that link down there at the bottom so you can find it there as well. Well, thanks again, Jenny, very much. And hopefully we can check in with you in a little bit and see how things are going.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'll be happy to check back anytime.
Wonderful.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up-and-coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.